Okay, good evening. I'd officially like to call this meeting of the Manheim Township School Board to order. Forgot that part. It's my favorite part. Welcome to everyone here in person and those joining us online. And let me pause for a moment here to say thank you. I've been hearing more and more my time about the district, connecting with people, particularly parents, particularly teachers, about how much people appreciate being able to watch our meetings both online, live, and then recapping, watching them later. I know Mr. Lyons in particular and a number of folks across the district put in some work to giving the school district and the school board that capacity, and it does feel to me like it's been having an impact, and so I just want to start and say thank you. Our district's mission, Nurture and Challenge for Success, is a reminder of our intent to enable every student to learn, grow, and thrive. Now please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, we are now on to our announcements. I would first like to take a moment to thank Dr. Ryman for stepping in tonight in Dr. Pate-Hefty's absence. And also, before we move further in tonight's agenda, I would like to pause and recognize several important observances that are meaningful within our Manheim Township community. First, we recognize Ramadan, observed this year from February 17th through March 19th, and also the Lunar New Year, which begins on February 17th. Ramadan is a sacred month in Islam marked by daily fasting from dawn to sunset, increased prayer, reflection, and acts of charity. For many of our students, this means balancing academics, extracurricular activities, athletics, performances, and homework while fasting throughout the school day. That takes discipline, resilience, and deep personal commitment. Ramadan emphasizes compassion, gratitude, generosity, and strengthening one's character. Families gather in the evenings to break their fast, communities engage in service, and individuals reflect on growth and purpose. The values highlighted during Ramadan, such as empathy, self-discipline, kindness, and service to others, are values we strive to nurture in all of our students. We remain committed to ensuring our schools are supportive, respectful environments for those observing during this meaningful month. We also celebrate students and families who are observing the Lunar New Year. Celebrated across many Asian cultures, including Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese, and others, the Lunar New Year marks a time of renewal, fresh beginnings, and hope for the year ahead. For our students, this celebration may include family reunions, honoring ancestors, sharing traditional foods, wearing symbolic colors for good fortune, and exchanging wishes for prosperity, health, and happiness. These traditions carry generations of history and cultural pride. When students share these celebrations with our broader school community, they expand our understanding and enrich the learning experience for all. Recognizing observances like Ramadan and Lunar New Year affirms that every student's background, culture, and identity matter. Our diversity strengthens us and is something that we are proud to honor. I'd also like to recognize National School Resource Officer Appreciation Day, which is on February 15th. We are grateful for the service of Officers Tim Linus and Officer Henry Carso, who serve our students and staff each and every day with professionalism, care, and dedication. While school resource officers play an important role in maintaining safety, their impact extends far beyond that. They build relationships with students, serve as mentors and trusted adults, support our staff, and contribute to the positive climate of our schools. Officer Linus and Officer Carso take the time to connect with students in hallways, classrooms, events, and activities. They help foster an environment where students feel safe, supported, and respected. Their presence reflects our shared commitment to ensuring that every student can learn and grow in a secure and welcoming setting. And on behalf of the board and our entire school community, we thank them for their dedication and service. And finally, I'll say that the board met before this meeting in executive session to discuss confidential personnel matters, including the terms and conditions of employment of current and prospective employees, and no deliberations occurred past that. Now we're moving on to item 2 on our agenda, which is presentations. So I say that we're going to start with a presentation on artificial intelligence. And so welcome to the representatives of our Artificial Intelligence Committee. Dr. Schaefer, Dr. Gillis, Mr. Scales, Ms. Keith, Mrs. Druck, and Mr. Lyons. Good luck finding room for all of you at the microphone, and welcome.
Well, thank you. We are excited to be here. And you already did the introduction. I was all excited to introduce our awesome AI team.
Hey, you can do it again. I love to hear it.
That's okay. Our team was developed shortly after the school board adopted policy 815 or 815.2 in August of 2024. So the last year and a half, we've been working to develop this plan, which we're excited to share with you this evening. We've had a clear focus on safety for all stakeholders throughout the development of the plan. We're focused on our community, our students, our staff, as well as how we use AI as a district administratively. So we're really happy to be here this evening, and we'll get started. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Shaver. So she stole a little bit of my thunder there, talking about what the AI team is and who is part of that AI team. And in just a few minutes here, you're going to hear from some of our tech specialists that are back here, Ashley Keith, Jackie Druck, Nick Scales, who are tremendous assets to this team. So really, this is a team that's been comprised of administrators, teachers, content specialists, tech specialists. It really is running the gambit here. We want to have everybody's thoughts, input, feedback. As I'm sure many of you are well aware, and you read things that are happening daily, AI is changing rapidly, and it is not only changing rapidly outside of our four walls, but it's changing rapidly inside of the classrooms as well. So we wanted to make sure that we as a team are really working hard to be able to get out in front of a lot of this, address what's really coming down our way, and really taking this as a team approach to how we address AI in our schools and how we can be able to leverage it to be able to better meet the needs of our students. So you could see just in terms of overall what our team's been doing and what they've been up to. So we've surveyed our students, we've heard from our teachers. That's really helped to be able to give us direction, where we want to be able to go. What do our teachers need? What do our students think right now? When you really step back and start to ask questions, and I give the example that I was in a sixth grade debate right before the holidays, and it was pro AI and con AI. They wanted to see which side of the equation they fell on. And at the end of that debate, asking them, so I said, okay, if you get to choose, which side would you choose? Every single one of the students said con, against AI. And just to hear their different input as to why, there's a lot of just different conversations happening in different households. And how do we continue to help add to that and help to guide our students as well? We are also looking at having an AI kickoff, so an artificial intelligence speaker that will be coming in for the 26-27 school year as a guest presenter. And we're really excited about that person as well. So we talk about the vision that we have here, and I just sort of talked a little bit about it at the very beginning here. We really want to continue to encourage creativity, curiosity, and ultimately student engagement. AI is not going to replace good teaching. Good teaching still has to be there. AI is another tool that we can help to use, leverage, and enhance what's being done in classrooms, and that's always been our goal. Whether it have been years ago when we first went one-to-one with iPads, it didn't necessarily change what was happening for those students specifically without the good teaching. Good teaching still had to be there. This just helped to enhance it. And then additionally, on top of that, we talk about our school board policy right now that was adopted at 815.2. Board policy is in pretty good shape right now, just in terms of being able to be flexible, responsive to AI, and just how quickly it changes. So we are in good standing, but it's always something we're revisiting. So we can't sit back and say, we've done a great job, we're all good to go. No, this is something that's constantly evolving and changing. And the way that our school board policy has been approved right now, it allows us as a district to be able to continue to learn and grow as things evolve in front of us. So I am going to kick things off now to Ashley Key.
Thank you, Dr. Gillis, and thank you to the school board this evening for this opportunity to present what we've been doing as a team with AI in the district, and I'm very excited about it. So now that we've built this vision for what we want AI to look like in Manheim Township for our administrators, teachers, and students, we have to look at how are we going to support teachers with that implementation and delivery of AI within the classroom. So we started with professional development and training. With whole group at faculty meetings, we reviewed the AI handbook, which we have. Yes, we have it in hand. So allowing us to create that professional handbook supported in creating a common district language and consistent expectations with the use of AI in our classrooms. We started with that ongoing professional learning, and we hosted an AI kickoff day during kickoff week where teachers were able to choose sessions based on their comfort level with AI, their skill level with AI, and their interest level with certain tools with AI. So we really had that ability to personalize that learning for our teachers, so it made more sense of how they can adopt AI and use that within their classroom. As always, we want to scaffold support for our teachers, just as we scaffold supports for our students. So the AI committee is currently developing scaffolded lesson plans that can be implemented at any grade level K through 12. We started that work earlier this year, but as Dr. Gillis said, AI is changing at a rapid pace. And after we built those lessons, we realized, wow, they are completely out of they're not completely out of context, but we do have to update them because Common Sense Media is giving us more guidelines of when do we start introducing AI to students at developmentally appropriate ages and how. So we're looking at just those basic introduction to AI, such as Siri and those concepts at the kindergarten level versus going up to 12th grade of how can you use this to really enhance your writing instruction and things of that nature. And through that, we created an AI traffic model. This was a traffic light model that was adopted with many of the school districts in the Lebanon, Lancaster County. So we discussed this in depth at the IU and decided to take that traffic light model and make it relevant for our students and our staff here at Manheim Township. So the traffic light model is a three-tier, three-color approach with the red meaning the students cannot use AI for that assignment and teachers are looking for that authentic creation from the students. A yellow light would indicate that students are allowed to use AI for specific parts of that project, but they have to be transparent in how they used AI and receive permission from their teacher before they're using that AI. And green light is encouraging students to use AI because I'm sure Mrs. Druck is going to speak about this, but AI is becoming that new digital divide that we had, with our iPads years ago. So we want to make sure that our students are empowered to use it in ethically and appropriate ways for their future. So the green light is saying, yes, you can use AI, but also the teacher is going to have that conversation with students with the appropriate use, and then teachers are going to be instructing students of how to properly cite the use of AI with their work. As always, student safety is at the center of everything that we do. We want to make sure that every app that we are vetting or website that we're vetting is protecting our student data, and it's aligning with the policy 815.2. Mr. Scales is really going to go into depth and details about our app and website vetting process, not just for AI tools, but the technology tools in general. So what we're looking for is that the app is not collecting any student data, and some of our apps are not training those large language models. We also want to teach children and students not to share any of their personally identifiable information, and that starts as young as kindergarten when they receive an iPad. Our librarians are teaching them through their digital citizenship lessons that passwords should be protected, that we're not going to share our password with our friend, we're not going to share our addresses with our friend, with strangers and things of that line. So with those lesson plans that I had mentioned earlier, it does indicate clear guidelines for ethical and responsible use for those students. And those lesson plans are scaffolded to build the confidence that teachers need to teach students how to use that tool ethically. And then that goes into the academic integrity and expectations and teaching students how to use AI with transparency, which we have outlined in the handbook as well. So again, our goal right now is providing those consistent direct instruction of AI use, and I'm going to pass it off to Mrs. Dreck and empowering our students to use AI.
Thank you. All right, so yes, the tech people come up with paper, but I needed my notes. So as Ashley Keith talked about, our number one goal is always safety, but we are really aware of modern times. We are aware that LinkedIn has said AI literacy is the number one skill when people are looking for jobs right now. We are aware that the World Economic Forum has said in 2030, the number one skill will be AI and big data. So we know what we're preparing our students for, so we can't turn a blind eye to this. So we need to empower our students so that they are ready to enter that workforce. So we used a lot of work from Digital Promise Framework. This is a national company that's offering a lot of guidelines on what does it mean to be really strong digital presence and also AI. And they have this three-pronged approach of AI literacy means to understand, evaluate, and use. So we want our students to know first, what is AI? It is not a brain. It is not human. It is algorithmically programmed to give us these responses. So in our STEM courses, we're starting to look at what is AI really? What is the back end of this? And then we want to evaluate this. So we want our students to realize there are costs and benefits to AI. This isn't just something we want to use freely, but we want to be intentional with the use of it. And then finally, we do want them to use it, especially as they get older, so they are prepared. But we want them to use it creatively to solve problems. Similar, again, as we talked about with the iPad rollout, we are really intentional that the iPads were there to enhance, to create, not to consume, not to reproduce. Same thing with AI. We want it to be very intentionally used by our students so that we can empower them to do greater things. Again, we have on here that we would only use AI tools that have been approved, and we will talk to our students about what that means. Mr. Scales, again, will go into that a little bit more about the vetting process. But we do believe that understanding that we don't just use any AI tool that's out there, we have to be intentional with what is safe. We, as a committee, one of the areas we're still working on and are going to continue to work on is what does that look like to cite and disclose usage. So we know that we have the traffic light for the disclosure, but what specifically do we want to do? MLA and APA have come out with suggestions for this, so that might be something that guides the committee, but we haven't come out with a final stance on that. And we, again, really want that critical thinking and ethical use. So again, we just really want this to be an intentional thing for our students to really empower them and not something they just use to kind of replace or do something differently. We want them to be, this can really enhance your learning. This can bring to the table new things, and that's what we want them to do. And then finally, we really want to be intentional about how we engage and inform our families. I stand here as a district parent, so I do have that perspective as well, and I know how important this is. So one of the things that we did is we have that handbook. We have one for staff, and then we have one for students and families. The one for students and families will go out in the principal's newsletters soon, so that they will be kind of looped in on what is happening, what the expectations will be, so we can really start these conversations. We will highlight again the digital promise and IU guidance that we've gotten that's kind of inside of that handbook as well. We really were intentional with, we didn't make this up on our own. We found really knowledgeable people to impact what we were going to write and what we were going to share. And again, just focusing on providing that information. I just believe right now we are on this cusp of nobody in this room is an AI expert, but we all bring perspectives that are going to be really important. From all the teachers and staff that we have on this AI committee, to the school board, to the community, we all have these perspectives, and I really believe that that's going to be a very important piece of this as we kind of work as a team. And then I'm going to have Mr. Scales come up.
I think I've been set up to give you guys a lot of detail. Okay. So how do we know what's an appropriate supplemental tool when it comes to AI? Well, I'm happy to say we have a very extensive vetting process. And I will say that this is in heavy collaboration with Dan Lyons and his team. about how these work within our classrooms, with our students, with our staff. And before any gets in front for a classroom application, it has to go through this process. What does that process look like? Well, a high-level overview, we have to first make sure that it is aligned with our board-approved curriculum and it meets all of our privacy and safety standards. From there, if approved, these have to keep going with an ongoing kind of detail and thinking about how they are changing. As we've all heard tonight, this is an evolving landscape. So weekly, we meet weekly. Myself, Ms. Keith, Mr. Druck, Dan Lyons, and his team, we meet on a weekly basis to go through and see about these updates. And it's very, very important as well as these updates come, how do we improve and show our staff these updates as well? Well, it can come in the form of many different things. It could be professional development, faculty meetings, newsletters, emails, so many different things. It's trying to just get that information out there early and often for this. And staff themselves can put in any type of new AI tool. As this is changing on a weekly basis, staff have the option to input a tool for consideration for use. And we'll go through and we'll look at these policies and guidelines and we'll inform that teacher that did input that. Could actually come from one of us too on the committee as well. And that will come out as quick as possible with the appropriate information to help enable our staff to use that within the classroom application. So where do we go from here though? I want to preface this by saying that, and I think you've heard from my colleagues tonight, that everything we're trying to do with this is proactive and not reactive. That's the most important thing when it comes down to this. Everything we do has been calculated for this to prepare our students, our staff, our families for this evolving landscape as we go through. We've adopted a continuous improvement model, as I said, that these things are ever changing and we want to adapt as necessary as we go through. We don't want to be stagnant and static with this. We want to keep this going. And that comes heavy with professional learning. It's embedded with it, and pretty much everything that we have been doing since the start of this committee, we've been going through and being very purposeful on how we're presenting this and how we're using it. I do want to say that when it comes to any kind of digital tool, whether it's AI or anything, there is that healthy balance between our strong instructional practices as we do as teachers, supplementing it with these types of technologies. It's not a replacement for our teaching. As we had said here, we look in our vision, we look in our handbook. It's about responsible, human-centered AI use with that. And on that note, I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Schaefer just to wrap us up.
All right, so the team is here. If you have any questions, we were, like we said, delighted to come and share the information. And I know a question from the board before, again, anytime we are using digital tools, making sure we are balancing the use of technology in our instruction too, which is an ongoing focus as well. So that's a piece that we're always continuing to examine and look at. Are there any questions for the team?
Thank you so much, Dr. Schaefer and team. That was, again, very thorough. I really appreciate the detail and anticipating our questions. You answered a lot of mine already. Ms. Lamb, I think you asked for some of this presentation, so I'd be happy for you to start the conversation off.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate the entire AI team and everyone involved in putting this presentation together. I remember the first time I spoke in the audience, it was in regards to AI, and I'm sitting here bringing it up a few times. I'm curious on how we will measure whether AI is improving learning. Things like critical thinking skills, writing, problem-solving skills. Is there a benchmark in how we're going to measure how it's going to improve student learning? It's fairly new.
Yes, and I think that's a very good question because I think we'd have to use different data points for that. So I think that would be something we would certainly be discussing as a team as we roll that out in terms of with the implementation. So whether we would look at student achievement data as we look at different assignments that involve AI, really taking a look at teacher feedback as well, your perceptual data. Our high school teachers, probably the metrics are going to look different at the high school level because the types of assignments, our English department has had a lot of input. So I could see really getting some good measures from them as well, but a lot will depend on the type of assignments too. And that is something that we're really working on designing and taking a look who is using AI, how are we measuring the effectiveness. So I think that's a really good question and a great consideration for the team to continue to discuss and look at the professional learning side, it's a little bit easier for us to measure that because we can easily get that information from teachers. And then I think, to be thorough, students and our families as well. How are we doing with this implementation? I think that's going to also provide us with meaningful feedback so we know how to keep moving forward. And as we're moving forward, it continually changes. So it provides good challenges, I think. Speaking for the team on that. Good
Thank you.
question.
Makes sense.
I'll start by saying this is the type of thoroughness and high level presentation I would expect from all of you and from our teachers. This is what we want to be doing. But my question is going to be, are you hearing from faculty problems coming into the classroom since we've not yet introduced all of our integrity and so forth with the usage? Are they already seeing difficulties with AI coming into the classroom assignments?
Yes.
Is this addressing a need, or
Yes.
is it just keeping ahead of
I would
where we
say we're seeing challenges, right? And it varies depending on the department. So the English department has different concerns or challenges that we might see in the math department, or social studies might have different challenges than another department. So that's where we really have to differentiate the professional learning and why we surveyed the staff for that very reason, because we need to know what they are seeing and invite many representatives from those departments to help inform the committee and work on these resources for teachers and students, because they know best. They're the ones that are actually seeing this firsthand. So we are aware of some of those difficulties. We know AI detection tools are not always reliable tools. That's another piece we've really had to adjust and not use as a solo data point. We need multiple data points in terms of AI detection software. But even before we get that, we have to teach students how to responsibly use it. So a lot of our own challenges are coming from the fact that we need to roll this out, and we need to be really intentional with the rollout, because that intentionality will address many of the challenges. And then at the same time, I keep going back to this, but the plan to roll out then keeps changing because of the dynamic nature. So that's what's exciting about this, and it will be continual work. And yeah.
Thank you. That really supports our faculty. Also, are you seeing specific? I can see the interest across our arts, music, tech department. Are they coming at this differently, and are we taking it a different direction for them?
It is the number one request from our departments in terms of professional learning, and then the ability to use different apps and tools. So yes, I mean, all content areas are using it in different ways.
Yeah. Thank you, Mrs. Hens. Mr. Bolzar.
Yeah, I think this is it is probably almost in my lifetime one of the most important changes that's occurring in the exponential pace at which is going, which you had talked to. Really, I think it's going to, with the focus on, hey, is the student using it, not using it? Am I detecting it? Am I not detecting it? That's going to be an almost impossible task. And I think there's a great opportunity to step back and educate on actually what's happening in AI, right? AI is going out and taking disparate information and bringing it together. What the human, the student, should be doing, right? What the responsibility of where you find sources and how you pull it together, and why if you just go use AI, it's not about you like the detriment to your assignment, but you're giving away your personal power. There's so many places in the world today where, okay, somebody's telling you how to think. We get advertising, we get all this. And this is just such a powerful place, I think, from the beginning of using it as a really a compelling reason that's needed to teach students what should be happening in their own mind. So AI, it's like you're asking someone else just to tell you. No different than it's like you don't want to listen to us as a teacher, so why do you want to listen to AI? How about using your own mind, right? So I think I would encourage you to have a parallel as to the mechanisms and the what's and the whys behind AI. So it's not just don't use it, right? Only when it's a green light or a yellow, but understanding what it is and why that is. So it helps students make their own choices to like, you know what, I don't need to do that. I understand what it is, and I know I can find out on my own. Like if I determine on my own when it's a red light, a yellow light, a green light, that's so much more impactful to the development of the student and then to the adults that we will turn them into for the future.
Thank you. We will take that certainly back to the team.
I would sign up for that class. Miss Woodbury.
I just want to thank the team for, ironically, for showing your work by sharing with us the process by which you're going through all of this development of this rich and helpful material to help us understand and to help everyone understand how you're preparing teachers and preparing students. And thank you for widening the aperture to think of parents too, because we might be the least prepared group of all three to be supportive and to understand ourselves how we can support students and teachers. So thanks for all of that. I really appreciate that. It's really with a high level of just integrity, and it's so great to hear you say, and we're thinking about MLA, and we're thinking about all those things I haven't thought about since grad school, but what you all are thinking about right now. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Mr. McKenna.
Thank you. I'm going to echo my colleagues' support for the process that you've led. I love it's interdisciplinary. I love how collaborative it is. I love that you started with a vision that aligns with our values as an institution and also connects to policy, and that becomes the parameters with which you operate, but within those parameters, being very innovative. And the fact that you're meeting weekly is a testament to how closely you're monitoring how swiftly this extraordinary, disruptive, but powerful technology is. One of the things that I really stuck out to me from the presentation was Mrs. Drug speaking about what some national organizations and international organizations are flagging. So World Economic Forum saying in 2030, this is going to be the key skill. LinkedIn saying already it's the number one skill. We also see everyday headlines around the white collar bloodbath, things that are already happening in software, in legal, and many other sectors, and how drastically it's going to change the way that our society is structured, how work gets done, how careers evolve. And so later this evening, we'll hear a presentation about our career readiness initiatives. And I would encourage that we weave this excellent process that you have developed into that initiative as well. Perhaps it is already in there and you've been doing that collaboration, but it wasn't overt to me. And I'd love to see that we're really highlighting, given that this is probably as disruptive as the Industrial Revolution was, as the internet was, and now here we are on this another massive cusp that you all spoke to, on making sure that throughout all aspects of our student experience that we're factoring this in. In addition to that college and career readiness, I would also look at the implications for health, particularly for our middle school and high school students. There's a lot of research in pediatric circles that are saying we have a serious issue with students engaging chatbots as mental health providers. And because of the nature of the algorithm, providing types of affirmation that incentivizes a student to keep talking, but actually is leading to perhaps really adverse outcomes for the well-being of that child. And many of the tech companies, as I'm sure you're well aware, don't yet have any type of exit ramp for when things escalate, where it would direct someone to a crisis hotline, for example. So just if there's a way to integrate that into our school counseling work, into our health curriculum, and also our professional development teachers, to make sure that while this technology can be so powerful, there also are these downsides that a student may not even realize they have gotten themselves into. And so those would just be a few other dimensions that I'm sure you're already thinking about, but would encourage you to add to the list.
Will do. Thank you.
Mr. McKenna, that was spectacularly phrased. I really appreciate the thoughtfulness that you put into that question, and that does kind of get into where my mind was going is, like, I think that's the right size of the scale, right? And so, from my seat here on the board, my thought is, if y'all are just doing this as a committee off the side of your desk, is that enough, right? Do we have enough resources allocated internally to provide both the protection and advocacy for our students, for our teachers, who have a difficult enough of a job as it is? And so I'm not coming to any sort of presupposition, and certainly Dr. Schaefer, you hold my utmost trust, and that extends to your team. But I would just say, wondering if we do have enough of like, does this need to be someone's job, right? Like, does someone need to own this process and they convene that team, knowing how much each of you are also holding in your own individual roles and hearing the scale of where this could go? I would urge us probably to be thinking about it with you, Dr. Ryman, and you, Mrs. Robbins, other leaders in the administration, to think about, like, are we giving you all the support that you need in order to tackle this massive task? So that's also where my mind is going. I would invite you to tell us what you need in order to meet that challenge. Mr. Rivera, sorry, Dr. Schaefer.
No, I was just going to say along that, we do get a lot of support from IU13. They're great partners with us in terms of some of what you bring forward in terms of providing us with some of the supports that you mentioned. So we're really fortunate to have IU13 as well as a partner. That's been helpful.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. Mr. Rivera.
Yeah, really, just to piggyback off of what was already said, the one thing that stood out to me is having clear guidelines for ethical and responsible AI use on the part of students. And I think we need to explicitly teach that to them, because I think quite often they don't, we assume they know, but they may not know. And I know some students using AI at where I teach have gotten themselves into trouble. They think they're actually talking to a human being. And that they don't realize this is being recorded in a sense, and there's a record of that. So I think it's important for us to explicitly teach those guidelines for ethical use.
We agree. Yeah, we've had many conversations about that along with our acceptable use. It just aligns. Yep.
I know I have one more question, Ms. Lamb. I see you too. Why don't you go ahead?
The previous 2 times I spoke up about this, I mentioned there was training through PSBA because you, Mr. Gunter, had talked about how can we support you with the resources, and there's 2 training, one in the spring, one in the winter, and it really is a training for administrators, faculty, staff on how to implement AI into school systems. So maybe that's something I could email, share those resources, and you can let us know how we can support you.
Yes, we do have administrators. Dr. Gillis is one who they are taking advanced coursework in that very topic to be able to bring that back to the district, to the administration. So that's been very, very helpful to the team as well.
And I'll admit my position is also like, should we be admitting AI into our processes? Like, I'm still at that point, and maybe I'm a Luddite. I don't know, but I'm very much like, are we sure? Maybe that training will help us. I'm going to go kicking and screaming into that. I guess I did have one last question. It's more of a specific issue about the kickoff day speaker. Would that be our welcome back to faculty and staff day, or is that speaker going to be targeted toward students, or both?
You're a month ahead, but I don't mind giving you a preview for this.
Hey.
Those of you that are on the MTF board, at one of the meetings, it came to our attention there was a very dynamic speaker at the School District of Lancaster's association meeting. So we reached out to Dr. Drian from Millersville and been having conversations with him. The message would be for staff and all staff. Because kickoff obviously is all of our staff, bus driver, everybody who would like to come. So it would be for all, and just kind of getting to the essence of what we're talking about, like the cultural impact of AI and how it impacts all of us in different ways. So that would be the message. So we really appreciated that tip from that MTF meeting, and we've been talking with him, and we're very interested in seeing whether he would come. He has a great higher ed perspective. He's a professor at Millersville, so that's what we're putting together at the moment.
Sorry to make you spill the beans there. You do have some dynamic speakers every year. I always hear about how awesome those opening days are.
Yes.
Ms. Zimmerman, I think you might have our last question.
Just a quick question. Thank you again for bringing this information. I think it's great foundational for the board to understand what's happening. Appreciate it. In regards to your committee makeup, just wondering if you envision that growing, changing, and you had mentioned Common Sense Media, which makes me think about library media services. How are they tied into the planning in this?
They're all part of the committee. We have librarians, teachers from a lot of content areas. We always are trying, obviously, it's very inclusive committee. Everyone's welcome to join. I think where we probably see the expansion of it would be definitely some families. And I know Mr. Rutledge has worked very hard in working with students as well. So we do see the student need as well for their input and part of the team as well. So we do see the expansion of it as we're, continuing to develop it, but we do see those needs as well to have other stakeholders part of that as well. Yeah.
Okay, AI committee team, thank you for joining us and thank you for all the information and for answering our questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that is it for item 2, or section 2 in our agenda. We are on to section 3, which is our action for next week's February 19th voting meeting. We're going to start off with Mr. Charles to discuss recommendation to approve the agreement with RLPS Architects for the Nitchar Elementary School Project Phase 2. Mr. Charles, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. After multiple in-person meetings and site visits, the school district has concluded the preliminary evaluation process for the Nitchar Elementary study. The district is now positioned to move beyond the initial investigation phase, which was phase 1, and into a more formal design and execution stage, which is phase 2. Upon board approval, the district will enter into an agreement with RLPS for phase 2. This phase transitions the project from theoretical analysis to actionable construction documents, which includes design development, which will be preparing documents that illustrate and describe the project's size and character, including architectural, structural, mechanical, and electrical systems. This phase will build upon previously approved schematic design. Technical documentation, creating detailed drawings and specifications that set forth the quality levels and performance criteria for materials and systems required for construction. Bidding support, assisting the district in obtaining competitive bids and awarding contracts. And last, construction administration, providing administration of the construction contract, acting on behalf of the school district to ensure quality and compliance. The school district would agree to compensate RLPS based on a percentage of the total project costs, a basic service fee of 5.5% for new construction and 5.9% of the cost for renovation work. Also, the agreement would include a 100% credit for previously paid phase 1 architectural service fees to the amount of $24,900. As we mentioned last week, this will be brought to you next week during the voting session. Do you have any questions for myself or RLPS this evening? And I have Chris Linke here with me as well if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Charles. Yeah, I saw Mr. Linke. Thank you for joining us this evening. Are there any questions from my colleagues? Ms. Woodbury.
I just have a question about the structure. So 5.5% of the cost of the work for new construction and 5.9% for renovations. So if we choose new construction, it's 5.5%. And if we choose one of the rental plans, it's 5.9%.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
And then just to be really specific, the fees that we would pay to RLPS were included in the numbers presented at the facilities meeting last week to the school board. Is that correct?
Right. So what we presented at the end of the bottom of that priority matrix, it had construction costs and soft costs. So the fees are part of that soft costs. Yes. So in that total number that you have.
Thank you, Mr. I'd understood that. I just wanted to make sure it was really explicit. Appreciate that. Ms. Zimmerman. Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Hens. And then I'm going to go to you. Ms. Zimmerman, go ahead.
Just wanted to let the community know that we're very interested in what you're hearing, what you want to see the board decide or your input in regards to Nittrower. And there are 2 specific email addresses where you can reach out to all of us. It's nittrowerproject@mtwp.net. And there's also, Campus Master Plan at mtwp.net. Thanks to Mrs. Davidson for setting those emails up for us so that we can be in communication. In addition to all the other ways you can reach out to us, but we appreciate that.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Davidson, for making that easy and accessible, and I hope we'll continue to publicize that. And thank you, Ms. Zimmerman, for bringing that up. Mrs. Hens.
Well, along those lines, I wanted to ask if we've had input since the plans, the options have been presented. Have we had input back from parents, teachers?
I can't speak for everyone's email, but I have not heard much. Not through my email. I've heard people have approached me in public to share ideas and thoughts, but I do hope people, hey, if you see me, I'm happy to talk, but I would much prefer to have it through an email that I can share with my colleagues.
Yeah, I would love to hear from parents or staff before I have to make a decision on this. Otherwise, it's my opinion.
Thank you, Mrs. Hentz. Okay, Mr. Charles, Mr. Linky, thank you. We are on to item B, a recommendation to approve the 2026-2029 K-12 guidance plan. Welcome, Mrs. Nowak, Mrs. Ziegler, and Mr. Evans. And let me say before you start, I'm a week late, but happy National School Counselors Week last week. Thank you for all you do for our students.
Thank you. So this is one of my favorite nights that we get to share our plan with you, and it's hard to believe that we are up here again, ready and seeking your approval for our next 3 years. Of course, as you will hear our plan tonight, you will also anticipate an annual update each year as well. So I have here Mr. Mark Evans, high school counselor, and Mrs. Elizabeth Ziegler, our college and career counselor at the high school. So within our chapter 339, we are K through 12, and we are building upon the career education and work standards cross-curricular. So we have worked really hard amongst our science teachers, social studies, English, and making sure that our academic standards are embedded, as well as our school counselors providing instruction through guidance lessons. You will see that it's K through 12, of course, so we are starting from our very beginning learners all the way up through. So as I shared before, it is updated annually, and we also engage in stakeholder groups every year in the fall and then the spring. In fact, you are all invited each time to be able to participate, and that is our advisory council breakfast. We have business, organization members, families, staff, and students all a part of that programming. Okay, so just to share a little bit more about our advisory council, the purpose is more than just sharing information on our comprehensive school counseling program. It's really to gather feedback from all of our stakeholders to strengthen services for all students. We really value the engagement and discussions that take place at these meetings. We've discussed ways to offer career exploration with our younger students and what programming our students with high needs might need. Secondary topics have included how we help students identify and pursue post-secondary planning pathways, all while we're ensuring that we meet the standards set by the state. Our work is guided by the Pennsylvania Career Education and Work Standards. These standards that you see here describe what students should know and be able to do in 4 areas. While these standards are embedded in our Chapter 339 guidance plan, responsibility for implementation extends beyond just our school counselors. As you'd expect, all educators and content areas play a role in integrating career connections and addressing real-world skills, and a little bit you'll hear more about that. These standards were recently revised to better align with the evolving workforce and post-secondary needs. As a result, district teams have been working on adjustments to our curriculum and programming. We look forward to sharing more details with you next year on how these updates will better prepare students in these areas and ensure that they're equipped with the knowledge and skills needed for success after graduation. At the K through 6 level, we are engaging in both our content, so our science classrooms, our English language arts classrooms, as well as guidance classroom lessons to explore interests. What are our students seeking out to understand? So maybe it is from family experiences or friends or neighbors' experiences, but also being able to dive in and utilizing our educators, our organizations that are local, as well as our technology, which is what we use for Zello, which Lancaster and Lebanon school districts often utilize. And below there, you'll see some examples. So career interviews at the K-4 level. When we get to Landis Run, we are engaging yet again in junior achievement, where our fifth graders go from investigating jobs that are potentially offered at JA Biztown in York to developing a resume, filling out a job application, and then they also interview. And so we get to sign up teachers and administrators to interview our students. And it is so exciting to see this come alive from the very beginning at the elementary level. We also have exploration in STEM with local businesses in the STEM field and working on building our portfolios, as that is a requirement upon graduation.
Rather than read what's on the slides, and being at the high school, we got to observe our middle school program in action. Allison Smith, Charlene Campbell presented at our, I'll stand back.
All right, good.
I'm going to break something before I leave here. But anyways, all kidding aside, we got to see them in action on full display at our advisory council in November. And the enthusiasm and the excitement that they have to teach the college and career readiness skills that we have at the middle school is pretty inspiring. You know, they chose to highlight some things at the advisory council that I want to focus on is etiquette. They talked about Schoology etiquette, email etiquette, about day-to-day life etiquette. They talked about Shark Tank, which is her version of Shark Tank, which is pretty cool. And then I almost did it again. Let me stand over here. My favorite, what's that? Stand by the mic. So I'll talk really loud. Okay. But my favorite was the major career project where the students had to film and research a career of interest. It was pretty exciting. And rather, like I said, than regurgitate the slide to you all this evening, some things on the horizon for the college and career readiness program are personal financial literacy lessons, which I think need to get down to the lower ages, which is exciting. And to the VR or the AI stuff that's coming, they talked about using the lending library through the IU13 and doing some transfer VR stuff. So it's kind of cool that they're implementing some of that technology in that college and career readiness program.
Okay. At the high school, we've addressed college and career readiness largely through our freshman academy and our advisory programming. Again, also though, with different content areas and in meetings with our school counseling team. Over the past several years, we've expanded beyond the classroom to provide more hands-on real-world experiences, whether increasing internships, getting out to do workplace tours, offering pre-apprenticeships or opportunities to earn industry-recognized credentials. These are all within partnerships within our community. We couldn't do any of those things without those partnerships. As we look ahead, we are intentionally examining the way we engage students in these areas, especially with the standards changing. Students today have many more options after high school than they really ever have. And we also have so many different avenues within our own high school curricular offerings. So our goal is really to better inform students, engage them in exploring all of these different opportunities, and then guide them through thoughtful decisions in these areas so that they can navigate their next steps with confidence and purpose.
Elaborating on the career readiness skills, we have taken the Township 10. Part of that comes from Career Ready Lancaster High 5 employability skills. Those 5 from the Career Ready Lancaster employability skills are communication, resilience, integrity, problem solving, and teamwork. And we took it a step farther. And we added growth mindset, social awareness, critical thinking, initiative, and purpose. And our goal is to have our students credential in these workplace skills. We're constantly evolving our students. We're looking for ways for our students to gain these opportunities and to recognize students who have demonstrated these abilities. Some of the ways we are using experience opportunities are our work-based learning program, our co-op program, internship, the Discovering Paths program, which is through the Chamber of Commerce, Educators Rising class, the new class that we taught this year for the first time, and some stuff through the LGH Health Careers. One of the recognition opportunities that we have at the high school right now for students that demonstrate the Township 10 are our student recognition breakfast. That's given out on a monthly basis.
And just to inform the board that we do have the MT endorsement. So the local businesses of Lancaster have said that if you are able to endorse your graduating senior, then if I'm going to a job interview and so is Mr. Evans, and Mr. Evans has the MT endorsement and I do not in a local business, that is an edge for our graduates. So we're very proud of that. That was our first year this past spring with the MT endorsement. And then Elizabeth?
Okay, and with that, like we said, we can't do this work alone. So we would love to invite all of you to our next advisory council meeting. It's April 17th. Come join us for breakfast. I love the pancakes that were added to this slide. Come join us for breakfast and connections at 7:30. We usually start our meetings at about 8 and get you out by 9:30. So we would love to see you there. Stay tuned for an invitation.
Any questions?
Well, thank you so much. Let's get that on our calendars. I'd love to attend. Thank you for that invitation. Any questions or thoughts from my colleagues? Ms. Lamb, I see you.
I really appreciate hearing that there's a path for entrepreneurship and there's Shark Tank. What a great experience to get students before they're even out in the real world. I want a better understanding about the process in preparing every student with the Township 10. Sometimes students might be shy to come forward and ask for advice. Do students seek out the opportunities on their own, or do the counselors make the effort to meet with each and every student to do a check-in, form a plan, and then follow up every year of high school?
It really is a combination of all of those things. We're making sure that students are aware of the Township 10 and these opportunities as often as we can. It starts on day one of the school year with our administrative team. They're sharing about the Township 10. We, through our advisory period, through meetings with our school counselors, through Schoology, every avenue we can, we're sharing the different opportunities that are available. And then we're working with our juniors and seniors to just spell out in greater detail what this all is so that they can take advantage of the opportunity and the MT endorsement in their senior year.
Dr. McCardle.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for everything that you do, everyone in the guidance department. Speaking as the parent of a recent MT graduate and a current 7th grader who just finished college and career readiness, I can tell you that everything that you're doing has spurred a lot of conversations in my home and helped give some direction to my recent graduate. So the work that you're doing is making a difference. So thank you so much for doing that. Thank you for keeping us updated.
Ms. Woodbury.
I just want to thank you as well and to let you know it really is permeating. So I have a clinical background in social work, so I love when I see growth mindset. But I was never so surprised as when my son said to both of his parents, "So do you think you have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset?" And of course, I wanted my husband to answer first because I knew the answer. So that was joyful and learning for the whole family.
That's great to hear. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Ms. Woodbury. Anybody else? Mrs. Hens.
I'll just commend you, which I have already at the meetings, but that parents know, that the community knows, there is a pathway to graduation for every student, and there is a pathway to post graduation work, school, training. That we have it all. I have talked to people who go, schools should this or schools should that, and they are always amazed with when I come back with, well, we have this and we have this and we do this and our kids have access to. You're doing a phenomenal job, and our district is very, very lucky to have you all.
Thank you very much. We have a great team.
Yeah, thanks for continuing to provide us with the opportunities, the ability to provide the opportunities.
You're not off the hook yet, Ms. Zimmerman.
Thank you for the presentation. I don't want to volunteer the rest of the board, but I know that we're always looking for meaningful ways to engage with students. board members. So if there are opportunities for us to come in for Shark Tank, I think Mrs. Lamb would love that. Or other, I know that maybe they're looking for volunteers for mock interviews or other things. Just keep the board in mind. We'd love to have at least the invitation and the opportunity to come in and engage directly with students. Be a part of the work that you're doing. Thank you.
And yeah, I'll close this out. I'll just say we're happy. We want to share this because this is honestly, we can feel your enthusiasm and we can feel the intention that you put behind reaching all of the different types of students from all the different types of backgrounds who have all the different types of pathways that we have in this district and providing success paths and plans and assistance for them in a way that that feels really good. That feels really good for us. And we're so proud of you and the work that you do is such a great representative of who we are and who we want to be as a school district. And honestly, that is real world impacts for kids and for families. And what do we hear constantly about people wanting to move to this district for the schools? And this is a real pathway. This is a real tangible value beyond it aligning with our values. It's also a value for people who live here, who raise their families here, who stay here. So thank you. That's a not insignificant part of the work, and we see it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That means a lot. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hollenbeck, you did not have to race through traffic too quickly to get here, I hope, but we are glad to see you now to hear a recommendation to formally approve and recognize booster clubs for Manheim Township Bowling and Manheim Township Boys and Girls Tennis. Welcome.
Good evening, everybody. Before I get started, I just want to give a shout out to a great counselor, but also a great football coach who just walked out of the room, unfortunately. Mark Evans was actually nominated to the Pennsylvania Scholastic Football Coaches Association Hall of Fame. So just want to give him, there's only a handful of coaches in the entire state. He's coming back in. There he is. But yeah, just a round of applause for Coach Evans. Pretty big honor. Again, only a couple of coaches in the entire state of Pennsylvania have received that award while they're still coaching. So we're lucky to have him and really appreciate all he does, both as a counselor and a coach. So,
thank you.
Yeah. Tonight I'm here based on our school board policy 915 to bring forward our two remaining booster clubs for our athletic programs that don't have booster clubs. Last year we brought forward, I believe it was 18 or 19 booster clubs across the board for all of our programs, and we had again two or three programs that did not have those. So I'm here to present and bring forward through the bylaws for tennis and bowling. Both of our boys and girls tennis teams combined to form one booster club, which will be awesome from a Title IX equity standpoint, which we're thrilled about. And then our wonderful bowling team, state champion a couple years ago, has formed a booster club as well. So I'm happy to say all of our programs now across the board in athletics have booster clubs that will support them in extra fundraising. We look to ourselves to provide the needs, and the booster clubs provide the wants for our programs. So it's great. Now these programs should be able to have those extra wants, fun banquets, and that kind of thing. So with that, I'll open the floor for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hollenbeck. Are there any questions? Okay, so I guess now that we have everyone covered, does that include our unified bocce team, our unified track team? They have booster clubs?
So same kind of idea as the tennises. Combining, we have our unified bocce and our unified track and field in a unified sports booster club. Yep.
Awesome. Thank you. I couldn't remember where we stood on that. So thank you, Mr. Hollenbeck. All right. That's it for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'm going to head back over for the LL Boys Championship game. So hopefully Amanda's holding down the fort for us over there.
Go Streaks.
Thank you, guys.
We are moving now on to item D, a recommendation to approve the authorized official resolution formally requesting the public school facility improvement grant of up to $5 million. Mrs. Robbins, welcome.
Thank you. The public school facility improvement grant is funded through the 25-26 state budget. There's a total allocation of $100 million available. The funds are intended to be utilized for essential building improvements. The grants range from $500,000 to $5 million. Our multi-year capital plan includes $1.5 million over the next 4 years for high school roof restoration for a total of $6 million. We are also anticipating needing roof restoration at Neff Elementary in the next few years. So we are requesting the maximum amount of $5 million for roof restoration. There is a 25% cash match requirement, which means that if we are awarded the full $5 million, we would have to pay a share of $1.25 million. There's also a $100 application fee. We are requesting the grant for both the high school and NEF in the event that we are awarded the entire $5 million and the cost of the high school roof renovation comes in less than the award and the match. A requirement of the grant submission is to approve an authorized official resolution designating 2 individuals from the school district to execute all grant documents. So you'll see within the resolution that we are recommending designating myself as Chief Operating Officer and Mr. Steve Brubaker as Business Manager to execute all necessary documents. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mrs. Robbins. Are there questions? Mr. McKenna.
I just want to commend Mrs. Robbins and her team for looking for these fundraising or fund opportunities to supplement our budget. So thank you for that. And this seems like an excellent way to leverage what we are already planning to do with some additional funding and controlling our costs in the process. So thank you for that.
Ms. Zimmerman.
I'm sorry, I was quickly reading too to see if I missed this, so I apologize. So the timing on this would be when would the money be dispersed, and then when would the roofs have to be completed?
So there's not a lot of detail, unfortunately. There's not even a rubric showing you the award criteria. The deadline for the grant is March 13th. There's no PD has not released any kind of timeline as far as when we would have an award notice. I'm assuming it's probably late summer, early fall. And they have not given any details either on how long we'd have those dollars for. So we did apply back in 2024 and we were not awarded any money. So $100 million sounds like a lot, but it's just $5 million. It's 20 districts across the state. So we're going to be optimistic, but hopefully we'll get something there.
Dr. McCardle.
Thank you. Just a quick clarification. You mentioned the 25% match. So would that be in addition? So the total would be then 6.25 with 1.25 coming from us?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we just have to cross our fingers for some time to hope we get the allocation. Okay.
Yes.
Any other thoughts, questions? Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Robbins. Okay, now we are on to item E, which is a presentation on curriculum proposal. Dr. Schaefer, get comfortable. And so I want to note that this is going to cover items F through J on the agenda. Mrs. Davidson, I'm looking at you in the back. I should probably read through F through J right now to let Dr. Schaefer go through. Okay, so anyone you need to get a drink, go to the bathroom, get a snack. This is going to take me a moment. I will do my best to run through all this, but thank you, Ms. Davidson and Dr. Schaefer, just a moment. So as I said, we're going to be working now through items F through J. And so I'm going to start with item F, which is recommendation to approve the following new course at the high school for the 2026-2027 school year with no anticipated new costs, French 4. Then item G is a recommendation to approve the following new art course at the high school for the 2026-2027 school year with no new anticipated costs, 3D art and design. Item H is a recommendation to approve the following textbook at the high school for the 2026-2027 school year, Psychology in Everyday Life, the 7th edition, supplemental text with an approximate cost of $5,280. Item I is a recommendation to approve the following textbook at the high school for the 2026-2027 school year, Introduction to Business Supplemental Texts with an approximate cost of $4,635. And finally, item J is a recommendation to approve the following textbook at the middle school and high school for the 2026-2027 school year with an approximate cost of $207,706.88. Those books are Senderos 2023, levels 1 through 3 at $74,338 for hard copy, and then $98,914.50 online. Imagina level 4 at $148,895.50 for hard copy, and then $4,068.90 for online. And then Temas AP at $7,948.50 with shipping of $1,541.48 and professional learning of $2,000. Dr. Schaefer.
Thank you. I'm proud to be here on behalf of the Office of Curriculum Instruction for these proposals this evening. We're going to start off with the proposals for new and revised courses, and then proposals for new or revised textbooks. So, our first proposal is for a new course at the high school in the World Language Department. It's for French 4. This is a new pathway for students. French 4 is now in a combined course for IB French. Not all students are interested in the IB pathway, so we'd like to offer more access to our students who are interested in pursuing French instruction. So this would be another pathway for students who may not want to go the IB pathway. Also, there are adjustments to the AP French course that will not allow us to combine that course in IB with those changes to the AP curriculum, the advanced placement curriculum. So it will need to be a separate course. The second course at the high school is in the art department. We currently have 2 courses with lower enrollment. That's the sculpture course and the fibers and crafts courses. So our thought was to combine those 2 courses to kind of reinvent the course, which is going to be 3D art and design. This course will focus on 3D art materials and traditional crafts, as well as technical skills with glass, metal, wood, wire, and fiber. Sculpturing opportunities will be available for students, and other projects will also be developed that are functional and usable. So we're really excited about combining those 2 courses to kind of reinvent a new course to interest students. New textbooks for different departments. In our social studies department, we have a proposal for a new psychology textbook. The current textbook, the copyright was 2017. There have been significant updates and research since the 4th edition. So we're proposing the 7th edition for the course that was rewritten last year. So we waited for this edition to come out, and we feel that this textbook would better support the curriculum. In high school and our business education department, we're really excited about some new energy in the business department, led by our content specialist, Mr. Brenner. We have a new textbook for Introduction to Business. We've never had a textbook for that course, so this would be a new textbook. And we are currently rewriting that course as well, that will come to you in April with a revised course, but we're hoping the textbook gets approved so we can use that to write the new curriculum. At the middle school and high school, in the World Language Department, we're really excited for the Spanish alignment for all of our students taking Spanish in grades 7 through 12. So realize the costs seem high. These textbooks were allocated in our multi-year plan. So the funding is available and has been planned for in the multi-year plan, but you can see the levels for each of the coursework, including the advanced placement textbooks that are needed for each level. There are hard copies for classroom use, and then the online materials are so that students can access that outside of the classroom. So they wouldn't necessarily have the hard copy textbook. They wouldn't need to be carrying that around. They would use that in class, and that's why you'll see additional costs for online materials so that students can continue to access the materials and resources they need for those courses. Here's the overview of proposed expenses that were already shared. Again, just keeping in mind with the world language textbook that amount is allotted for in our multi-year plan. The other textbooks are part of our budget planning for next school year. The grand total for these proposed expenses is $217,621.88. Want to acknowledge our content specialists and supervisors that are here this evening, Mr. Rutledge, Social Studies Content Specialist, Mr. Brenner, our Business Content Specialist, Mr. Jones, our 7 through 12 Art Content Specialist, wasn't able to make it tonight, but I was happy to share that information. Mrs. Long, our Supervisor of Multilingual Learning, and I really want to acknowledge as well the Curriculum Review Committee, which teachers, administration are all part of in terms of reviewing the curriculum, as well as district administration. So thank you. Are there any questions? And our content specialists and supervisors are happy to jump in to also answer any questions you might have about these proposals.
Thank you, everyone, for being here, and thank you, Dr. Schaefer, for walking us through that process. I do, as you were saying, I was reading, I think I read a wrong number at one point and added well over $130,000 to the total, and I was thinking about the math didn't really add up. I was just going to go with what I wrote, so thank you. I should say it was $18,895.50 for the hard copy book. We don't all need to pass out for a $150,000 book, and I almost made it through unscathed. Are there any questions or thoughts from my colleagues? Dr. McCarty.
Thank you. I just had a question. You mentioned with the Spanish textbooks that you'd be spending money on hard copies and then additional monies for the online access. Does that mean you're buying fewer hard copies because they would remain in the classroom so they could be shared?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, they're for classroom use.
Great. Thank you.
Mr. Rivera.
So what kind of input did teachers have into picking those specific textbooks?
So, and by the way, they are all over on the table over there. I failed to mention that. So all the textbooks that we're bringing are all over there for review. So what you'll see is for textbook proposals, our teachers will look at multiple copies of different textbooks and they go through a vetting process, all in the curriculum documents where they evaluate the different features that they're looking for in the textbooks. They do a comprehensive study, they research different textbooks, different editions, they compile all the information, they have department conversation, and then they make a suggestion based off of then what would best support the curriculum or if the curriculum would need to be rewritten. Did I miss anything? Tom and Steve, Linda, anything else that the departments? No? Okay, all right. They're the ones that actually experienced that, so I wanted to make sure I didn't.
Sounds like they were very involved in the process then.
They lead the process with their departments. Yes, I would not be able to pick a Spanish textbook.
One other question: the professional learning, $2,000. What is that exactly?
When we get new resources, especially as robust as the Spanish series, companies offer the professional learning to help our staff know how to use those materials correctly. So a lot of times with what is offered, there might be platforms that we'll need to utilize and teach students how to utilize. So the professional learning comes with those products. And a lot of times we need that. So we know teachers know how to best use those materials.
Is that ongoing support or just like a one-time thing?
Linda, do you recall? Is it ongoing? A lot of times it's when you initially buy the resources, but a lot of times if we need to reach out, there might be a certain amount of hours and we'll use a certain amount of hours the first year and then we might have 20 hours left that we can use consecutive years. It really just depends on the needs. So it might work that way. A lot of times we use them a lot in the first year. We don't need any more. Sometimes you can purchase additional hours if needed, but a lot of times we also can use a certain amount and then use hours later.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. Anyone else? Ms. Lamb.
Dr. Shape, you kind of touched on this earlier. I was just curious how the school district measures the success or evaluate the effectiveness of new updated curriculum. Is there a way to measure the improvement student outcomes? Do you give a certain time frame and then everyone meets up? I'm just trying to understand that process more.
Sure, absolutely. Yes, we use multiple data points to assess the effectiveness of our curriculum. So student outcome data, as you mentioned, we use perceptual data. How do students feel about their learning? How do parents feel about their learning? How do teachers feel about the learning that's taking place? We use demographic data. We use process data, observations, walkthrough feedback in terms of what we're seeing in classrooms. So all those are taken into consideration. We also use state achievement data, and all those pieces let us know whether our curriculum is aligned with standards, whether all students are successful with it. That's why that demographic data is important, because we have to be sure that our curriculum is culturally responsive for all students. So that's a big piece that we look at as we look at all the different pieces of determining the metrics of whether our curriculum is effective. Then other pieces we look at instruction. So what professional learning do our teachers need to be able to deliver that curriculum? We can have a fabulous curriculum, but if we don't provide the support that teachers need to be able to deliver it, that's a whole nother consideration. So we also look at the instructional needs. And then, of course, the resources and materials that are needed to support the curriculum. Do we need to update a resource? So those are all the considerations, the metrics that we use as we go through a curriculum cycle and have feedback loops to make sure we don't wait 5 years in a curriculum cycle if we need to make changes. So that's why, as you mentioned, those data points are really important. It's like the progress monitoring. You're continually taking the temperature of the curriculum so that we're sure that students are growing and that we're effective in our process.
Ms. Zimmerman.
I will admit that this question comes from a household whose child loves art in the high school. But I'm curious, it brought to mind when we change a course, and they've already perhaps taken that course, sculpture, how do we work that into, are they able to take the new course, or is it then off limits for kids?
Well, I think any of you that know our art teachers at the high school, it's a new course. So it would be differentiated, especially if you know Mr. Jones in terms of his work with differentiation and working with his team. So if there's a course that a piece of that a student has already took, it will be a new course where it certainly can be differentiated to meet the students' needs if they've already had some of those concepts.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts or questions? Okay, Dr. Schaefer, thank you.
Thank you.
We are on now to item K, a recommendation to approve the first reading of the following policies with the final approval in March. Policy 103, discrimination and harassment affecting students. Policy 204, attendance. Policy 218.1, weapons. Policy 247, hazing. And Policy 903, public comment in board meetings. Dr. Ryman, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Grentor. Good evening, school board and community. I'm happy to walk the board through these 5 policies. Not an extensive amount of changes and recommendations in each. These come from PSBA and a legal team that makes recommendations to us, and generally we are recommending to the board to accept the recommended changes that you see in each one of these policies. Beginning with 103, you can see that there was an addition of the term religious among the reasons that students cannot be discriminated against. There is a definition of what pregnancy means. There is a definition added for race. And the policy also now calls for, if there are supportive measures being instituted in relation to a Title IX investigation, that it would be required for the Title IX coordinator to have communication with the Director of Special Education if we're talking about a student that has an IEP. So those are the changes associated with policy 103. Any questions on that one? I'll go one at a time with the board.
Thank you. That is fine. I just want to specify that PSBA is the Pennsylvania School Board Association. It is a associated body that provides support for school boards across the Commonwealth.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Grentor. Policy 204 is attendance. This adjustment is looking for anytime we are issuing a truancy notice to a family that there are now some added specifications that we have to outline the consequences that are associated with a truant student. It needs to be delivered in the preferred language. There are transfer limitations for cyber programs, there's some additional legislation that's associated with that policy change where a student who is known to be defined as habitually truant cannot transfer to a cyber program unless it's ordered by a court. So that's outlined in this policy as well. We need to also share resources or supports that would promote regular attendance in this notification. And we have to make sure those notices are issued to all contacts within the system so that we are reaching all the adults in the lives of a student who's struggling with attendance. So some positive components that I see there with changes to 204 for attendance. Absolutely.
Dr. Martin, how do we collect the information to provide notices in the mode and language that the parents desire?
So I'm sorry. Are you good?
Yep.
Upon enrollment is when all that information is collected, and if there's ever any updates as we travel, which this does happen, addresses change and acceptable contacts change. So when they walk in the door, we're making sure that we have all that information clear. And as we go, parents are also able to update that information as well. Sure.
Is this generally what we are already doing? you don't see any major changes that we need to.
I don't see anything major. It's a matter of taking the letters that we issue for truancy are very standard. It would just be a matter of us making sure to check against the check. Are the notifications in there? Are the supportive resources in there? This is not going to be a heavy lift for us at all. Good question, Mr. McKenna. Oh, I'm sorry. That's your turn.
What services do we use for interpretation and translation?
We have vendor contracts with at least 3 or 4 different programs that we can do for translation. If we're going to hold a meeting right now, we can dial an 800 number, punch in the language, and we have a code number, and we can communicate with that family right on the spot. We also have translation services. Our more frequently used languages, some of those letters we already have ready to go. If it's a language that we have not used before, we have vendors as well that can assist with that. Yep. All right. Are we good if I go to 218.1? Okay. So for weapons, if we would have a weapon in a school that is confirmed to have in some way been represented with a threat to a student or the school or an employee or a facility in some way, this policy is now obligating us to ensure that our threat assessment team is notified, that law enforcement is notified, the parents or guardians of any students who are directly involved with that incident would need to be notified. We've also learned about Act 44 recently, which requires us that if there's a weapon incident at a building and there are other buildings on that campus, we would need to notify all the families on that particular campus that are connected with that building. And we also need to make sure that we report that incident to the state with our annual reporting. This is I'm going to try to beat Mrs. Hence's question, because you might say, are we doing that already? Yes, this is also not a heavy lift. Mr. Dietz and principals are very ingrained with this process, and this will not be a heavy lift or new sort of approach for us either. It's just making sure that those notifications go out. If it qualifies as a weapon that was connected to a threat, we have to work through each one of those steps.
I actually had a question from PTO members at the PTO meeting I attended regarding this. If we could establish some kind of specific notice that goes out, because this is anything. This can be the merest unimportant thing that happened, but you still have to report.
Correct.
And what they were saying is could there be a code of some sort with this is a generally how would the wording be? This is the our usual notification to you that something has taken place, or there a significant incident took place today on the camp, so that if you're going through, you could get several of them. And
That's
if you're
true.
going through your email, then what you would be getting, and you wouldn't be worried. Well, what actually happened and what kind of weapon was it, and so forth. So they were just wondering if something could be developed that would aid parents in that way.
We have. It's a great question. We have worked with Mr. Dietz, Mrs. Davidson on working towards some standard text and that would come along with communications like this. Some of our conversation has circulated around. We recognize the spirit of what the policy and the law is trying to accomplish, but it also has the potential to, it's another Act 44 notice. This is no big deal. We're a little uneasy about people being almost desensitized to the message. So I think the way that we're trying to avoid that is just having plain speak. If there's cause for alarm, we're going to be working with law enforcement, with Mr. Dietz, with our threat assessment team. If there's not, we still have to tell parents we did have a weapon that, Nitrower today, and that's our compliance with the law.
The parents' comment was how then to address their students when they come home, because it could be that the students didn't know anything about it, and they'd be, trying to get information from the kid. The kid hadn't heard anything because it really hadn't applied. So that they just wanted a little bit of guidance on how to respond in that way. Okay. So I'm just sharing that so you can continue to share it with whomever. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you, Mrs. Henson. I think given the nature of our campus that has our main campus, which has a significant number of schools, we're particularly susceptible to this type of thing. The guidance that this board received in part from an incident earlier this year, and then from our solicitor and the other team members that Dr. Redmond named, is that this is this is potentially a kind of a threshold changing piece of legislation for schools all across the Commonwealth, not just us. So I'd be interested to hear if we've compared notes with the IU or some of our other, companion schools across the county to try to, again, make sure that we're comparing notes, we're identifying some sort of similar pathway of agreement, so that it raised some pretty significant alarms last time with this. We did have to issue that notice in a way that did feel disproportional from what we understood about the actual event. But certainly, I think Mrs. Hens, I've been thinking about that same thing. I mean, I have parents, and my wife works in the school district, so this is certainly something that we take quite seriously. But trying to provide more public education, more standardized practices is something that I'd like to see our administration continue to do, both independently and in partnership with our partner schools across the region.
Yes.
Yes, that is your partner school. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Any other thoughts before Dr. Ryman continues? Okay. Thanks, Dr. Ryman. Cool. Keep going.
Okay. Policy 247, hazing. There's qualified language in here that speaks to discrimination and harassment. They were kind of coupled in a way, but now you can see that they've been sort of bifurcated or split in half, where we're talking about discrimination or harassment. And they also have some nomenclature adjustments in there, where instead of police, they say law enforcement agency, just to kind of generalize those terms and make them functional across all kinds of PA public school districts. So just those two adjustments with hazing. And fifth and final, 903, public comments at board meetings. My understanding is the will of the board is to make an adjustment to the 5-minute maximum, to hold that, and to cancel the second chance at comment, which you see on the bottom of page 2.
Thank you, Dr. Ryman. We did discuss this last month as a board. We received pretty significant information in terms of practices from other school districts across the county and region. Mr. Boldazar, you brought that issue. I'm happy to make space. If you have any thoughts, and in particular, I know a number of board members have engaged in a pretty robust discussion last time. So happy, Mr. Boldazar, if you want to share.
No, I think the change that's proposed is fair. It takes that second part away, so it stops the ping-ponging dynamic back and forth and a debate going on in the audience, not necessarily here. So I think that's given all the debate that went on, I think it's a fair place to land.
Thank you for that. Anyone else? Lots of people. I'm going to start down, Mr. Rivera, then go to you, Ms. Woodbury, then you, Dr. McCardle.
Yeah, I think when we had the conversation last time, we used the term outlier, and sometimes it has a negative connotation, but I think in this case, I think it's good that we're an outlier. I think, to provide, to be known as a district that gives the most amount of time to a resident to speak, I think is a good thing. I looked into, in a sense, when somebody steps at the mic, I think they're trying to give a persuasive speech essentially to us. And so I looked up what's the average time of a persuasive speech, and that ended up being 5 to 7 minutes. So I think that's good as well. And also, in thinking about being equitable, I think the most equitable thing to do would be to give the longer time period, given that, again, some people aren't good public speakers. Some people speak a foreign language. It's English as their second language. Some people work, 2 jobs and don't have time to prepare a 3-minute speech and rehearse it. So I think that the most equitable thing to do would be to provide those 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Vera. Ms. Woodbury.
Yes, I also wanted to point out that we still are an outlier in the good way, in that we give more, this 5 minutes that we have just the one time will still be more generous time than most school districts, and I think we're proud of that. I think it's one of the things that we are really just making sure that our policy aligns with our values of hearing from the community and hearing well from them, while we are keeping a safe environment where we are asking our community to talk to the board, and not necessarily to debate or talk to each other during public comment, which is what our policy says and what really the spirit of the policy has always been. And I hope that back and forth period, which I think could be really intimidating to people, eliminating that really is a way of keeping things psychologically safe and really including people who might be really intimidated to speak at all. Knowing we sincerely want to hear from our community. So thanks.
Dr. McCardle.
Thank you. I just had a question. So the language will read once that sentence is struck that no individual may speak more than once on the same topic. Does that mean that an individual could speak a second time if they're speaking about a different topic? Yes.
My understanding would be that they could bring forward commentary on Nitrower and then commentary on a board policy.
Okay. But we're just limiting them to 5 minutes on one topic.
On one topic.
Okay.
Good point of order.
Thank you.
Mr. McKenna.
In theory, it would allow for more than 2 opportunities to speak. If you choose to speak about the agenda, and then you also want to engage in public comment about any other area of concern for the board, and you also had 2 of those, either 2 agenda items or you had 2. So I think to your point around being generous with the time, I think we're still being quite generous. I think 4 minutes, 3 minutes would still be reasonable and still allow for adequate participation. I heard the point around equity. That's very important to me as well. I do see that there could be a possible unintended consequence of multiple people speaking at 5 minutes, and then someone's like, well, I can't stay. And I think we even saw that during the debate around the track, right? We had multiple students who were here who were eager to share their perspective as student athletes, and the meeting kept going, and there was not actually an opportunity till very, very late on a school night for them to engage. So just another perspective on how a change of this nature may not actually be sufficient to accomplish what we seek. I think it's a progress from where we had a draft last month. I could see additional modifications also being warranted.
Thank you, Mr. McKenna. I will say not dissimilar to our AI committee, we do have both Ms. Woodbury and Ms. Zimmerman who have expressed interest in shepherding much of our policy review process for this board. So I see this as an ongoing and iterative process where we can learn and adjust as needed. So I concur. If we see it's not fitting our needs, we should continue to engage. Any other thoughts?
Can I just clarify one thing? Like going back to no individual may speak more than once on the same topic. There's a limit to that, though, right? Like if I have 5 different topics I want to talk about, do I get to talk to for 25 minutes? I would think we'd want to put a limit to that and say you can speak once for 5 minutes, come back. I mean, and you may speak one other time on a separate topic.
If Mr. Granger, if you would like, I'm happy to review a solicitor. I'm happy to take this feedback and arrange for an edit that's maybe takes out 2 words that might resolve some of what the concerns are. If you'd like me to do that, you can direct me, and I'm happy to do that.
I would say, Dr. McCardle, you kind of opened a box of worms I didn't anticipate. I didn't anticipate. So I appreciate your thoughtfulness on that. I will say my impression was this policy was going to have people able to speak for 5 minutes. So I'm Ms. Davidson too. I'm wondering, how much can we tinker with this before we have to restart this process? And I can restate what you say in the microphone, or you can come to the microphone. Yeah.
So first reading is a first reading. If you want to make an additional change to that, we can still make that change and bring it for second reading. If you want to make additional changes after that, though, it will need to go back to a first reading.
Okay, so what Mrs. Davidson said is we can make some changes around the edges, bring that back for our second reading next month, and not have to restart this process. Okay, so I think that's probably what we were going to want to do. Dr. McCardle, I see your hand.
Thank you. Just in response to what Mr. McKenna said about the possibility that it could just go on and on and on, I wonder if there could be something in the policy that would give the president the discretion to notice the number of people who want to speak and say, given the high number of people wanting to speak, we're limiting comments to 3 minutes this evening. Like, could there be something where you would be able, or whoever is the president would be able to do that? I don't know, but it just, that was just a thought that occurred to me as we were speaking.
Yeah, that's a good thought. Ms. Woodbury.
So just have empathy for the person sitting in the president's chair, and I want to just say that my recommendation or my hope and my wonder at the same time is about the language of the policy as it is the one that we're changing. Um, there are previous iterations of the policy. I have a feeling that on the same topic is in there because the second chance had been added. But prior to that change of letting folks speak twice, I think the on the same topic had to do with the fact that they were adding the speak twice. I think I've looked at previous versions, more than one previous versions. Mrs. Davis
That it did
lived
not
it.
have, yes, that it did not have on the same topic. It would just say that they're able to speak for 5 minutes, period. And that would be the end of that sentence. If that is the wish of the board, I would say for Dr. Ryman to repeat that's what the change would want to be, and then we can make that change and bring it. If we start going back and forth with different changes, it could take us back to first reading again.
Right. That's what I would just say to the end of the sentence there, that can speak for 5 minutes, and then just strike the words on that topic because that related to the second.
I'll say that is aligned with my intention. Happy. Okay, I'm seeing nods. I think we have consensus. Mrs. Okay.
Bottom of page 2.
We might just need to clarify because this is each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 5 minutes duration. So there might need to be some change to that statement. Also,
I think for the purposes of this, we can express an intention that I believe Dr. Ryman is hearing, and then Dr. Ryman can work with our solicitor at Saxon Stump and an internal team, and then bring back an informed reading for us next month. Is that fair?
If the board likes that, Mr. McKenna.
Mr. McKenna, and then I also see Mrs. Hentz.
I that would satisfy the questions that I raised. So thank you for that.
Mrs. Hentz.
I was wondering if we needed that at all, if we have each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 5 minutes duration. If we're not going to add on one topic or anything else, each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 5 minutes should be enough.
So I think we can't be accused of not being thoughtful on this. And certainly, I hope we provided enough direction. Okay, so I think that's the objective here. Is we need to provide enough clarity for the team to give us a second reading consistent with what we've discussed here. Do you have something else, Mrs. Hentz?
Well, we can remember that as a board, should there be a special meeting on a topic where we know there are a lot of people who wish to speak, we can revise, adjust, set our policy for that particular meeting. We always have that option.
And we would, should that arise. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I believe that's it for our first readings, and now we are on to item L, our recommendation to approve the second reading and final approval of the following policies. Policy 209.2, Diabetes Management, Policy 805.1, Relations with Law Enforcement Agencies, and Policy 805.2, School Security Personnel. Dr. Ryman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Grunter. Yep, these three policies were presented last month for first read, and as a second read this month, I'm happy to take any questions that the board might have on the updates, PSBA recommended updates to these three policies. Are there any questions?
No questions on this one. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Ryman. We are on to our last item, item M, a recommendation to approve the presented out-of-state or overnight field trips. Thank you, Dr. Ryman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Grunter. Tonight I have three field trips for the board that require your approval per policy 121, given that they are out-of-state trips. These are all high school trips, and I have verified with Mr. Relat, Mr. Hollenbach, and Mrs. Ranier that there is a plan in place for funding, chaperones, supervision, and transportation. And I'd like to recommend that the board give approval for these trips to continue to be planned and ultimately taken this month and in April.
Thank you. Any thoughts or questions for Dr. Ryman? Ms. Woodbury.
Looks like they're all out of state and none of them are overnight.
That is correct.
Thank you. And thank you for the changes you've made to this document a few times and make it really clear for the board. Appreciate you.
My pleasure. Yeah.
Anyone else? Mrs. Sense?
Actually have extracurricular type things that the kids are taking. Why are the 4 students going? What's the purpose of the student athletes to the Sussex Community
So
College?
the third trip gives an opportunity for those students to see a college environment and potentially be able to both study at the collegiate level and also compete at the collegiate level. So we have Mr. Evans is going to be able to take those kids and connect them with that opportunity.
But our other athletes don't, our other students don't get school authorized trips to see colleges. I'm just wondering where this pops up for 4 kids.
This is less often a trip that less often that we would normally be bringing to the board for approval, but because this opportunity presented itself and Coach Evans was available,
Unique
and
opportunity.
It was a unique opportunity, is correct.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Sense. Thank you, Dr. Ivan. Anyone else? Okay, moving on. Thank you, Dr. Ryman. We are on to item 4, Manhattan Township community comments. Residents, taxpayers, and district employees and students are welcome and encouraged to participate. To speak, please submit a commenter's card to the board secretary as you approach the microphone. In accordance with the policy 903, state your name and limit your remarks to 5 minutes. And the board will speak once per topic unless others have finished, after which an additional 5 minutes may be granted. The board will not engage in discussion at this time, and follow-up will be provided as needed. Is there anyone who wishes to make a comment this evening? You're already there. Welcome. Please share your name.
Mark Sellers. And thank you for upholding the public comments to 5 minutes. Appreciate it. One of the items you were given to by Riesler, Patrick, and Scott was in Nitrower Elementary priority matrix. I would just ask this board to ask yourselves who made it, who assigned the topics, and most importantly, who assigned the values to the priority matrix. RLPS, the architectural firm, stands to benefit the most monetarily from the most expensive option. They also dictated which 2 options the school board will decide, which I found extremely arrogant. If you remember, they placed 2 X's over option A and option B, and that should have been your decision. Mr. Baldazar, I appreciate you thinking outside the box with your comments about timesing the difference by 3. So if you take a 1, 3, 5, and 7, why stop at 3? If you put a 0 behind it, it's 10, 30, 50, and 70. In fact, why stop there? Put another 0 behind it, and it's 100, 300, 500, and 700. And you end up with a 600-point difference instead of a 6 in the original. With this mode of thinking, the highest price option in this case will always be selected. I find it interesting that when you're looking at the matrix, the side circulation, they put the status quo as 0. So I guess there's no pickup and drop off. The corridors, we were told, were a little small for today's building standards. Yet I saw desks, or should I say tables, in the hallway. And the status quo got a 0 on that as well. It was interesting because I found I called my friend on this, who I went to Nitrower Elementary with, and ironically, and he said, you know, those salespeople from the architectural firms, those architectural firm people are pretty good salespeople. I was like, the guy nailed it. Now, he's a CPA and he works with school districts in New York, so he gets to hear a lot of that. And more ironically, his father was a principal at William E. Nitrower. So I would say that when we looked at the original building and we toured, I would implore this board, if you haven't already, to go and tour the building for yourselves before you make a decision to just tear it down and build a new. Because we're looking at $3.5 million, and that's woefully low as far as the $63.6 million to build a whole new school. What I will say is this: if you look at the current building and you want to rebuild it, if you think educational outcomes are going to be improved by doing that, studies have shown that it's the parents and the students' value that they place on education that determines how successful they are as students, not the building itself. I would also say that you should really look at your taxpayers as not an unlimited revenue stream. One thing I will say, when you're looking at Manheim Township residents, Pennsylvania residents, and at large this country, they vote with their pocketbooks. So I don't want to see the school board in 4 years get totally voted out because you've raised the residents' taxpayers' money. One of the reasons why we are also given it the old elementary school to be torn down was that the cafeteria and the playground were on opposite sides of the building. What I'll say is that when you're looking at that, for 61 years it was okay for the students to go from the cafeteria to the playground and vice versa, but now it's not. I would also say that when our guide took us through, she said, there's 2 maintenance rooms right outside the cafeteria, and I believe they have a bathroom in them. Yeah, might they be the same ones that I used as a student back in Nitro Elementary when I went many, many years ago? So I would just say that. I just hope that you guys really make a good, hard decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zellers. Would anyone else like to comment? Okay, seeing no one. Sure, there's no one. Okay, that brings us to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mr. Boldazar, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. McKenna, thank you. Our next meeting is Thursday, February 19th, 2026 at 6 p.m. here in the district office. As a reminder, school board meetings can also be viewed online during the meeting or afterwards by going to the district website or our YouTube page. Comment or questions for the board may be emailed to boardsecretary@mtwp.net. Thank you to all Manheim Township staff, administrators, volunteers for your dedication to our students and community. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries. Thanks to all. We are adjourned. Good night.